Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgy kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for what you do for the channel. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description. And a big shout out to our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister and get 10% off all your purchases. Without further ado, we're going to jump into this week's video. We're talking about the Cavalier Fighter. The Cavalier Fighter comes to us from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, one of the best books that they put out. This subclass has this theory behind it that you need to be riding with a mount in order to make the most out of the subclass. You don't. Having a mount is very beneficial. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things you can do with it, which we will cover, but it's not a necessity. This is one of the subclasses that try to build off the idea of having some sort of tank kind of taunt ability, and it evolved a couple of times in other iterations with other abilities that had similar ideas, like the ancestral Barbarian, which also comes from the same book. The Cavalier does give you a couple of really cool options. It's a great concept to play with, and it gives you this brave frontliner kind of necessity. So you will need to be a frontliner or at least near other party members in order to make the most out of this subclass. Bonus proficiency. When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, you gain proficiency in one of the following skills of your choice: animal handling, history, insight, performance, or persuasion. Alternatively, you learn one language of your choice. This is a pretty broad set of skills to choose from. A lot of the time, insight, animal handling, those things would be more so for a monk, a druid, a cleric, or a high wisdom based character who's really going to be discerning fact from fiction. Animal handling is just because it's wisdom, it works really, really well. Dependent on where you're going to be in your campaign, whether or not you're going to fight non-aggressive animals or find them in the world is a little dicey. Animal handling in this situation is more so for the theory of being cavalry, where you're riding an animal, riding a horse or something like that. It would help, absolutely, if that's the route that you go, which is something we're going to get into when we talk about the next ability. But persuasion is a very popular skill that you're going to probably use more often than not out of all of those skills. Performance, probably on the lower tier. Respectively, if you're going to use a language or learn a language, that tends to be very beneficial if you're doing things where you're excavating ruins or you're going into various deep dungeons where they might have a long history behind it, or looking for artifacts and things like that. But again, that usually falls under the wizard's kind of, umbrella. Born to Saddle. Starting at 3rd level, your mastery as a rider becomes apparent. You have advantage on saving throws made to avoid falling off your mount. If you fall off your mount and descend no more than 10 feet, you can land on your feet if you're not incapacitated. Finally, mounting or dismounting a creature only costs you 5 feet of movement rather than half your speed. This is the only ability you get as it regards to riding a mount. Riding a mount has its own special set of rules. You need to have your mount trained, and your mount has to kind of work with you. That's really the best benefit. When that happens, your mount can take the disengage, the dodge, or the dash action. And you yourself don't have to worry about movement. You can attack, and your mount can disengage and move for you. It's a very tactical thing. It's not something easy to do because you do need a mount to do that. So finding one is very, very difficult. But it is something that's really feasible to do through a variety of ways, of even just purchasing one and just keeping it and maintaining it and not leaving it at dungeons and never going back for it. Like, you got to really be on top of it if you're going to have one. But again, you don't really bring mounts into a cave, so it's very rare the circumstance that you have. Maybe if you had Phantasmal Steed or something like that, you might make more of a benefit with that. That being said, when you are mounted, the benefits you gain are very, very strong. You makes you very elusive. You can be very, very distant. You can stay in and out of things. You can survive, but your mount also can be attacked and killed and everything. So when that happens, being able to survive falling off of it is very important because it does knock you prone, and you do have other negative benefits to that, especially considering if they're attacking you, they're probably swarming you. If your mount drops and you drop, they're going to have advantage on hitting you. Very dangerous. So keep in mind, this is one of the many abilities you get at 3rd level, and it doesn't mean you absolutely need to be mounted for this subclass to work. Unwavering Mark. Starting at 3rd level, you can menace your foes, foiling their attacks and punishing them for harming others. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can mark the creature until the end of your next turn. The effect ends early if you are incapacitated or you die, or if someone else marks the creature. While it is within 5 feet of you, a creature marked by you has disadvantage on any attack rolls that doesn't target you. In addition, if a creature marked by you deals damage to anyone other than you, you can make a special melee weapon attack against the marked creature as a bonus action next turn. You have advantage on the attack roll, and if it hits, the weapon attack deals extra damage to the target equal to half your fighter level. Regardless of the number of creatures you mark, you can make the special attack a number of times equal to your strength modifier, a minimum of once, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. This is that pseudo taunt mechanic, because it's not something that you can do to force you to be attacked or force an enemy to attack you. Very, very few things in the game give you that availability. But this gives it more of a reason for the enemy to attack you as opposed to anyone else, and it punishes them for attacking anything else but you. Having advantage on an attack roll and doing extra damage for a fighter is a big thing. Again, it's your bonus action, so you probably won't be dual wielding for this kind of a subclass, but if you're something like a great weapon master, now you have an advantage swing. Keep in mind, this damage does not have to be an attack roll. It can be a spell. It can be an AoE effect. If they have like some sort of fire aura around them that hits everything around them, anytime any of those people take damage, it gives you the possibility to actually use this attack. This does also hint at spreading your attacks around, because there's nothing stating that you can only mark one creature at a time. The only thing that's stated is that if someone else marks the creature. So, unless you're in a party with 2 cavaliers, which is probably never going to happen, you can mark multiple targets at the same time. And as long as you're within range of your allies, or within 5 feet of them when they attack someone, you have a bigger option to use that special attack. And that's really where a little bit of creativity comes in. And you do have to be gutsy, you do have to be melee, you do have to be upfront, you have to be within 5 feet of them. So you got to be ready to be in the thick of it and really prepared for that. It does add additional damage, which is great. The strength modifier obviously is going to dictate that you're probably going to go for strength-based weapons and probably not going to be a rapier kind of fighter. Warding maneuver. At 7th level, you learn to fend off strikes directed at you, your mount, or other creatures nearby. If you or a creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack, you can roll a d8 as a reaction. If you're wielding a melee weapon or a shield, roll the die and add the number rolled to the target's AC against that attack. If the attack still hits, the target has resistance against the attack's damage. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. This is another thing that mentions mounts. Again, if you have a mount, this is a good use of that in theory, but more practically, you're better set doing this to help save another tankier character, another frontliner, or someone that's going to be in the thick of things. Or if you're standing next to a squishy, this is a great way to protect them. The mount is probably the least beneficial to you to protect with this because of the limited amount of times you can use this ability. At most, you can rock out 5 times, but considering how many attack rolls get thrown at your party, that 5 can burn down really quick. This maneuver is fantastic as far as defense abilities are concerned. Being able to roll a d8, if you hit the average, which is like a 5, that's still a huge boost for that attack. That's like casting shield, and that doesn't equate to them having their own reactions, and they get resistance to the attack's damage if they do get hit. It's a great strong play for a very defensive oriented character. Hold the line. At 10th level, you become a master of locking down your enemies. Creatures provoke an opportunity attack from you when they move 5 feet or more while within their current reach. If you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the target speed is reduced to 0 until the end of the current turn. This is the Sentinel feat. But if something is already in your range, right? If it moves while still in the range, you can still hit it with this ability. That's really the benefit here. Your range is based on what weapon you're using. So a pike or a halberd or something like that is extremely beneficial to you because hold the line works at now 10 feet. So if they're just outside of your range and they just like entered in or just got to that point, you can keep them there outside of being able to hit you. Because creatures provoke an opportunity attack from you when they move 5 feet or more while within your reach. So as soon as they walk in, they're in your reach. That equates to you to being able to hit the opportunity attack. It's a great feat that you get built in into the character class, which is very cool. So ranged or reach weapons are really going to have a strong benefit. If you are long-limbed like a bugbear, this is so much more impactful because of that additional reach you're able to wield. So it becomes very, very apparent that bugbears are a strong species for this. Ferocious Charger. Starting at 15th level, you can run down your foes, whether you're mounted or not. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line right before attacking a creature, and you hit with the attack, the target must succeed on a strength saving throw DC 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength modifier, or be knocked prone. You can use this feature only once on each of your turns. This is really like an opening combat kind of a thing. You really want to position yourself well enough to get as much out of this as possible, mainly because if you run up, hit this, and they make that saving throw and fail, now you hit at this point 2 more times, and you can action surge and hit 3 times with advantage because they're prone. That is a huge opportunity to deal a massive amount of damage. Granted, you are 15th level, so you're pretty up there and with what you can do, what feats, and whatever you might already have. That being stated, this is always on. So if you manage to defeat an enemy and then there's another one a good distance away, if you can mitigate using all of your movement to give yourself that 10 feet of running room before you make that attack, that is always going to be significantly more beneficial. And this might be the long way around, but a lot of the times, if you're close enough, your movement is going to be wasted because once you get up there, you're not really going to move. Fighter is not a very mobile character. A fighter runs up and stays there until everything is down. Giving yourself that opportunity to use the map and your wherewithal of how your abilities work, yeah, you might only be 10 feet away from the enemy, but if you use like 15 feet, 20 feet just to get around so you can make that extra 10 feet a distance, then you get the benefit of possibly knocking them prone, giving yourself an advantage, making them use their movement speed just to get up, burning half of it. If they do anything from the ground, most likely they'll be with disadvantage. And if you have other melee party members that go after you, like a Paladin or a Barbarian or a Rogue, that opportunity to crit fish vastly outweighs a lot of other actions that can be taken, and it's worth it. You're going to be upfront melee anyway. Picking this up every chance you get is valuable to you. Vigilant Defender. Starting at 18th level, you respond to danger with extraordinary vigilance. In combat, you get a special reaction that you can take once on every creature's turn except your turn. You can use a special reaction only to make opportunity attacks, and you can't use it on the same turn that you take your normal reaction. So this is how that wording really works, because it's a little tricky at the end. So it says you can use a special reaction only to make an opportunity attack, and you can't use it on the same turn that you take your normal reaction. This is in regards to your ability Warding Maneuver. Warding Maneuver gives you the opportunity to try and deflect an attack that hits by using your reaction to roll a 1d8 and add that to the armor class of the person that's getting attacked. If you don't use that, you can then use Vigilant Defender every single opportunity you get. Is it going to happen often? No. It's not really going to happen that often. Again, because of what you do as a fighter, you run up and you kind of stay stationary. This gives you that kind of opportunity that if anything tries to rush past you, everything that goes by is going to get hit. Everything. Which means that if it does get hit, it stops because of hold the line. So what you're going to end up with, if you don't strategically let a few of them go, you're going to end up being the bottleneck. And that might be very detrimental depending on what you're doing. So you have to be a little smart and you have to be a little tactical and let maybe some of the weaker ones go because you know your party can handle them, and holding down all the larger ones, the more dangerous ones, because they'll be harder to let the party handle. You know what I mean? They'll hit harder, they'll have special abilities, they'll be stronger, whatever it is. And you need them to keep them in a tactical position. Banging out all of those attacks will get you surrounded. That's what it does. And you have to be mindful of when that's the best circumstance. So this is one of those things where like doing as many hits as humanly possible is a cool numbers thing, but it's detrimental to you. So you're not supposed to really use it that way. You're supposed to gauge and trust and build a party's combat mentality to work with that kind of an ability. Our final thoughts. The Cavalier is a great opportunity to be a very, very different subclass. Because of the way it's built around reactions and opportunity strikes and holding the line and being close to party members, having a reach weapon really, really fits very well with it. I don't know if people have seen this often enough, but if you have a mount and you have a lance, you can wield that lance, which is a 1d12, one-handed, and still carry a shield, and use the dueling fighting style to make it 1d12 plus 2. It's a very profound thing, and a lot of the issues is, well, how does a fighter get a mount? It's tough to get a mount. It is. It's tough to get a mount and keep it alive. It's tough to get a mount and bring it into dangerous places. It really dictates that how does a mount climb in case you were in a situation where you've fallen into a ravine and you can't climb out. You can't exactly pocket the horse and, pull it about. So the best way is really to get the feat Ritual Caster. Pick the wizard and then just do whatever you can to find the scroll of Phantom Seed. Ritual Cast it. Always have it. That is the best way to do it. I don't care if you got to be variant human, if you got to be custom lineage. Doing that propels this even forward more. But without a mount and just with a reach weapon, you have so much that this subclass gives you. It makes you have the Sentinel feat, but in an improved way. It gives you a way to force disadvantage on enemies, and if they do attack and damage anyone, you get an opportunity to punish that action, which is something that you really don't ever get to see. On top of that, you can have, at 18th level, you can have an infinite amount of reactions. You basically have like boss actions, like layer actions or special reactions, however you depict it. That's your ability. Like, that's really, really cool. And having a weapon at that point, you're doing a lot of damage per attack. Spreading it around, that might do a pretty hefty amount of damage because you're basically attacking possibly within an almost infinite number of attacks depending on the enemies you're fighting. No other subclass will give you that. And it works so well. You have the availability to charge, which again is better with the mount, but on foot is still viably and like totally understandably doing to be done constantly within combat. You have so many options to really bring that about. It's just going to require you to do a little bit of clever positioning when you have the opportunity to move in between combats. Knocking an enemy prone, giving yourself advantage, amazing. Especially considering how many attacks you'll be giving off per round. Having advantage means that most of them will hit, meaning you'll be able to do the most damage humanly possible, and it gives you a good opportunity to crit more. All that being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you're looking to be a tanky player, definitely try Cavalier, definitely look at it. You have a lot of cool options that you can do with it. Definitely big thank you to all of you guys for sticking it all the way to this part of the video. If you've made it this far, please hit that like and subscribe button. We are pushing for 2,000 subscribers, and we cannot do it without you. We've been making great strides since we started really trying to set that goal for us, and we really appreciate you guys, all of you guys, even the guys that don't want to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for the views. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you for everything you do. It's amazing to us that you're able to help and support the channel. Big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister, get 10% off all of your goods, and it is viable for people who play IRL games and real life games with your friends, or you just want to get something nice for your DM. They have a lot of great stuff. Check it out. Their link is in the description. And thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.